So a couple people have some questions for you. We are sending more military to Syria now. So what happened? Question mark. What has he done for poverty and immigration? I'm assuming they're referring to Trump. And how about the budget? Are you cool with all of our money going towards the military?
I guess I'll start with Syria. Like I said, he overturned that $1 billion, policy where they were funding rebels. Like it's a multi-layered issue where we're fighting with Iran. There's a religious battle going on, where people want to destroy Western civilization. You have us, who we've ticked off pretty much everyone by installing puppet presidents and, funding literally terrorists. I mean, I don't know another way to put it. They're, destroyed Libya and killed the leader. And now there's a, jihadist and slave trade going on there. And the media never seems to talk about that and in their activism. So, at bare minimum, I could say with that one is that he overturned a policy that really at least got rid of extremists there. Now the question is, where do we go from there? So, like I said, I'm kind of in the Tucker Carlson zone of I was very questioning of Trump, and I still am. I want to see the whole picture, even with Iran and Israel and Palestine. I'm still kind of taking it all in because there's so many perspectives out there as to what's really going on. And I know what the media doesn't talk about is there is like a religious war going on that's even deeper than politics, where, you have Christians and Muslims and Jews. They've been fighting for thousands of years. When it comes to poverty and immigration, I'm part Puerto Rican. I'm not highly Puerto Rican. I'm a quarter, and I have my stepfather's 100% Mexican. I have 2 Mexican siblings that came over here, when they were younger.
We get it. You're handsome. Okay.
No. I'm just saying because people, I don't know. I'm just like, I grew up around like a bunch of Mexicans. George Bush actually deported my neighbors. So,
wow. Okay.
But literally, I just say that because people will be like, oh my God, you can't talk about that. And I don't, it's sad that I even have to say that because that shows how like pseudo racist, anti-racist people are, of like, oh, you have to be a certain race to talk about certain things. I think the social justice warriors have kind of destroyed activism in that sense. But with immigration, I mean, I really think people are being naive on the left, on the progressive and the liberal left. And I come from that background, but I'm all for immigration. I even show love to illegal immigrants. I'm not a politician. I'm not a border security agent. That's not my job. My job is to show love to my neighbors. But I think people are being very naive when you look at the numbers and you look at how dangerous certain areas of Mexico are getting. Tijuana and other places on the border, it's not like 10 years ago. I mean,
well, what numbers are you referring to?
Well, it's just not as safe as it used to be. And I'm saying the amount of illegal immigration, and if you look at the charts of who the #1 immigrants are in each state, it's becoming Mexico. So it's the same thing with the travel ban. I was for a temporary ban because you have, our government for the last 5 or 6 years have been funding terrorists and rebels in these areas, where I have friends in Syria that say, dude, we don't even own our passport agencies. Like we don't, before Trump got into office and whatever happened, Damascus, the biggest city, was taken over by ISIS. So when you're taking a lot of these refugees, you see it in Germany and Sweden and, even the UK, they have more crime than, New York City and London, and they can't figure it out. It's because it's not the knives. I'm not just blaming a certain amount of people, but there's so much naivety on the left where I think the right is a little too ignorant and rude. But the left, it seems to be like they just don't care about anything. Like they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. But you take in enough people that aren't good people, cartels and this and that. And not everybody are those types of people. But I find that the left, it doesn't even have, the strength to analyze that and be like, okay, this is happening. It's like they just want to ignore all the negative aspects of it. So I like that he's kind of raised the conversation there. And I find, that a lot of my Spanish family and Spanish people in the city out here, they either don't care as much as like, say, a liberal about what he's saying, or they support it because they came here, you know what I'm saying? And they came to America to leave, whether it be Guatemala or Brazil or, Mexico. And they have a little bit of pride about the country. And they know that, you let enough of the wrong people in, it's going to negatively affect the country. So I don't mind what he's doing. I mean, the way he speaks could definitely be a little more eloquent and kind. But I'm an actions over words person. I like the blunt truth rather than like the sugar-coated lie. And I feel like the left, with all of that stuff, they have a victim mentality where it's like you're always giving the benefit of the doubt to, people, where I think that becomes dangerous at a certain point.
Well, I think the question also becomes, is this a good use of resources? Is it a good use of resources to have our ICE agents kicking over water that activists set out for anybody that may be coming over? Is it a good use of resources to build this wall? We don't even know exactly how much it's going to cost. We've done economic analysis before, because, I mean, the wall is nothing new. Trump didn't think of this himself. In fact, there's footage of Hillary Clinton showing support for something like a border wall. So this is nothing new. The economic analysis that have been done have said, like, this would be a disastrous idea. It would be a total waste of resources. And, it really depends on what statistics you look at. But there's a lot of stats out there that show we're almost at a zero rate at this point. So, I mean, I think it's a matter of, and I'm not here to try to overgeneralize everybody that may be coming over the border. I don't have the capacity to do that. I don't really know who does. But I think it's like, this is sort of in many ways a straw man that is kind of pulling at the heartstrings of people that are desperate and giving them a scapegoat. I would argue that that's kind of what Trump did. And not just Trump. That's what the right does. This isn't unique to Trump. Like you said, he's just more blunt about it. That's the only difference.
I'm not a big wall guy, so I actually went to Yuma, Arizona, right near the border, to speak at a school, and no one there even cares about the wall. They're right next to the wall, and they don't even care about it. It's more people in Middle America and Trump supporters elsewhere. So I'm not a big wall guy per se, but I do think that, the left, especially like the Democrats, just in like pandering to the opposition of Trump, it's like they prioritize illegal immigrants over legal Latino citizens. And I know a lot of Latinos are getting upset because, they pay taxes and they've been here for 20 years. And you have like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer crying over illegal immigrants, where it's like, it doesn't feel sincere to me. I'm not a big wall guy. I don't think it's the biggest thing, but I do think that, in an effort to just oppose Trump, I find that a lot of progressives and liberals won't even have an honest conversation. Like, we're having it about this and we can figure out who's good, who's not, what's safe, what's dangerous. I just find that, there are criminals, there are bad people. And when you're too lenient, it's bad. When you're too harsh, it's bad. We need a middle ground. But I do find that the left, especially like the media, it's like they just do the opposite of Trump. If he says he likes water, they don't like water. If he says, then, they'll offend anybody.
That's the media, though. That's not just the left. I mean, you're talking now about just sort of the tribal mentality that is kind of meant to divide people. I mean, I always love to say the number one personality right now on cable news is Rachel Maddow. Who's the president? Donald Trump. What does Rachel Maddow do? She just opposes Trump. Who was the number one personality when Obama was president? Sean Hannity. What did Sean Hannity do? Oppose Obama no matter what. I mean, it's just partisan hackery.
No, I agree. I mean, and we can definitely agree on that. But name one progressive, and I hope there is one, that will talk about immigration and even have a conversation about it that isn't total victim mentality, like let's ignore it. Name one progressive that'll talk about, the problems that are happening in Sweden and Germany and England, whereas, people are getting acid attacked, they're getting stabbed at higher rates than people are getting shot here. Rape rate is up, and these are, basically a product of failed, refugee policies, and not, well, first of all, destroying people's land and then feeling bad about it, and rightfully so, and then not even vetting and checking to see who these people were. And I find that progressives and liberals, even though they have different policies, that there's not a single one that will have they just say Trump's bad. Don't say that. That's not true. These people are all great. And it's just not true. Like, I have friends in Syria that are saying, yeah, totally. A lot of ISIS members went to England because they don't check. They just say, oh, where are you from? Damascus. What's Damascus? You mean Damascus? Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the one. Like, they have such poor vetting process that they let a bunch of ISIS members into England. And the citizens there have to deal with that.
Okay, well, I mean, I would say Bernie, for instance, to answer your question. I think Bernie, I think a lot of progressive politicians are just saying, look, we want an honest and a fair process. Certainly, we're not saying like, hey, just come on in and we don't give a hoot. We want an honest and a fair process, but it should be honest and fair. And demonizing human beings not following through on a promise given to DACA recipients, and building a wall that would be a total waste of resources when we already don't have other things that other countries of our wealth take for granted, like a universal healthcare system, like educational opportunities, like free college, like living wages, like an infrastructure program. When we don't have any of that stuff, and instead we just have this increased military budget, which, yes, Trump has passively accepted with bipartisan support, mind you, that's a big problem. It's a really big problem, and it's not the way to go about this stuff. I don't think there's anyone that's just saying, hey, let's just not care and anyone can just come in, whatever. People want a fair and honest process. But all the things Trump is proposing, I would argue none of those are fair or honest processes. And he wants to privatize everything.
Yeah, I just haven't found
a slippery slope there.
I just haven't found a single liberal or progressive that will talk about those issues, because they are, becoming, affecting a lot of people. As for like the money for the wall, I don't get too into that, even like, healthcare and stuff, because I mean, I feel like we have the money to do whatever we want. I feel like we're trillions of dollars.
And we use it for bombs. We use it for bombs.
I agree. It's an alarming rate that we're going at, and it's just like everything that we've known for a long time happening. I mean, we have it, you could add a zero, or it's all just numbers on a computer, the money. We're in trillions of dollars of debt. You look at the debt clock, it's just constantly rolling. I mean, that's why people are like, oh, the wall's going to cost that money. I'm like, we could make that money in a second. They just, like you said, they dropped a bomb and spent that money. We can make a better healthcare system. So I agree. Like, we do have the money for all of that. And that goes directly to, the Federal Reserve and the money system, where, I mean, I don't disagree. I think that our healthcare system is embarrassing. I'm not a big fan of socialized universal healthcare. I think even the amount of people and the health quality will get down. And my biggest beef with that is the root causes of health are, we have obesity problems. We have heart disease problems. We're one of the most unhealthy countries. We have a pill problem, because whether you watch Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, they sell you depression pills in the commercials with side effects of suicide. And then they wonder why everyone's so crazy. It's like, well, you're selling them pills, Jimmy Kimmel, and whoever's Sean Hannity. That's all the commercials are pill commercials.
Man, so you really don't like Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, I think he's like a top mind control.
You've singled him out a few times.
Well, because I feel like he really has people's mind. Like, he's like the Rachel Maddow of the late night game, where he's talking to Chuck Schumer, getting his talking points, and I just think it's really like a mind control. You talk to some people and they don't know up from down anymore. They don't know left from right. I think they're destroying the minds of women with this fake activism and like leading them towards the Democratic Party. I just really care about people. And I know that socialized healthcare and any of the stuff, it won't solve our root level problems of like mental health and spiritual health and physical health. And we're destroying our minds and bodies. And I don't think there's a politician or a policy that'll save us until we get to the root level of things.
See, in some ways, I see where you're coming from, and I think there's some truth in that. But in other ways, I do think a universal system would help a lot of what you're talking about. I mean, I support single payer. And the reason for that, a lot of what you described, that's because we don't have a focus on preventative care here in the United States. Why? Because our health insurance industry is a profit center. If you take that away, and in systems that have universal coverage, like France and Canada and Italy, pretty much every other industrialized nation other than us, we're pretty much the only one. That's why in the World Health Organization, we are at the bottom of the rankings of industrialized countries. They focus on preventative care because their concern is keeping people healthy, not making as much money as possible. There's more money, and a lot of the drug pharmacy stuff you're talking about, that's big pharma. That's evergreening. That's the corruption in big pharma, which again, a universal system would really start slowly putting an end to all of that. So yeah, I mean, we would go about health an entirely different way if we had a universal system, because we would have a system that warrants that.
But it would also be a single government regulated system. So in theory, yeah, it's a utopia where everyone's healthy, but in actuality, it could turn into a total destruction of the free market. And, you have longer lines, you have no motivation for doctors, because now instead of, being free to open a practice, or they're like government regulated. You are like, they're basically, a slave to the government. That's your job. You have to do it. We're forcing you to do it. Of course, there's going to be longer lines though. Of course, there's going to be, I mean, you're giving millions of people access to everyone's, stuff, which is, even now, it's already a disaster. I hate healthcare now. I hate everything about it. I think it's a total scam in the United States, every which way.
It is.
It's a ridiculous scam. But I'm just very, very, very slow to ever give complete control of anything to the federal government and just assume that they're going to do all the things that we want them to do.
The government does the bookkeeping. The government does the bookkeeping. See, here's the thing. Like, you're quoting a Paul Ryan now, pretty much. The government does the bookkeeping, and a lot of those concerns that you're bringing, that's just like a for instance, because we have more resources than a lot of other countries do. We have enough medical resources in this country that we should have the best healthcare system by far as the amount of doctors we have, the amount of facilities we have. Now, there's some areas in the country where that isn't the case, but as a whole, and if we had a more single-payer universal system that was really just catered towards the needs of the people, I think a lot of those problems that you're talking about, they would not exist. But these are kind of the fear tactics that the right uses to prevent this type of a system. And when I say the right, I'm including the Democrats, because they all get big checks from big pharma.
But I'm just asking you a question. Do you think there's a possibility, just even a shred of possibility, that a single payer healthcare could completely backfire totally, and it wouldn't change the pharmacy industry? It wouldn't change, because you're taking the health system, which is already totally swallowed up by big pharma. It needs to be absolutely destroyed, and I pray that Trump does that. He's talked a big talk. I hope he walks it and goes at the pharmacy industry. He did a speech a few weeks ago. But you're taking this, which is already basically owned and controlled, but then you're singularizing it and then putting it in the hands of the U.S. government. Do you think that could backfire?
If it's implemented wrong, certainly anything could backfire. But, if
do you trust the U.S. government to implement it right?
I'd rather have that than the private industry we have now. Abso-freaking-lutely. And you know what models we have to look at to do it right? Pretty much all of them. Pretty much every industrialized nation that's gotten it right. Do they have some gold token that we don't? Absolutely not. The government would just do the bookkeeping. It's a better system. Will it be perfect? Of course not. No system is perfect. France isn't perfect. They're a hell of a lot better than us, though. Same with Italy. Same with England. Same with Canada. And there's all kinds of different models within this that we could kind of look to. If people want to have some private industry involved, there's options like that over in England. There's the basic system, so nobody gets left out in the cold, that everybody is bought into. But if you have the means to have a little more luxury, a better waiting room or stuff like that, you can pay it. If we wanted to look into stuff like that in the United States, I suppose we could. I mean, there's many different bills out there. I mean, Bernie Sanders wrote a Medicare for All bill, which, by the way, Medicare has been pretty successful, pretty effective. If we just extended that to all, we could have an efficient universal healthcare system. And you know who suggested Medicare for All too, in addition to Bernie Sanders? Donald Trump. At one point, he said, why don't we just give Medicare to everybody? And then real quick, the people that had his ear said, oh, no, we can't do that. Your donors wouldn't like that. Just like when it comes to the war budget, he has done nothing, because who has his ear? People like Pompeo and all these other warmongers. They're the people that have Trump's ear.
I'm hesitant to ever give more taxpayer dollars and more control to the government, but I'm so fed up with our system. I think we've been shammed here. I think we've got the downsides to like a universal healthcare system where it's like a mandatory payment, but then we have the downsides to like a capitalism pharmacy owned. So I feel like right now we're doing the worst of both worlds instead of at least getting the best of both ones. So
let me ask you this. What is a better solution? Because I'm not here to tell you single payer is 100% perfect. Yeah. I just think it's a universal system. It's the clearest glass we got. It's the clearest glass any country can ask for. And it's not a coincidence. Pretty much every industrialized nation does it. So what's a better solution then?
I think a better solution would be a total free market and just a complete crackdown of pharma. I went to the doctor recently in Los Angeles, and it was this Indian guy, really cool.
Well, how can you, I mean, the free market in the terms you're kind of using it,
Yeah.
wouldn't that involve letting big pharma just do whatever they want?
Well, I guess there would have to be some regulation as opposed to, you know, whatever it is now, it's not working. But what I was saying is I had a doctor and he told me that he's not even allowed to do what he wants to do. He's even right as of now, regulated by the government to do certain things. So he was kind of having like a panic freak out attack. And he was like showing me the website. He's like, dude, I can't even tell you what I want to tell you. I'm not allowed to. I'll get fired. I'm
And
just
where was this at? I'm sorry. Where was this at?
This is in Los Angeles. I'm not, I want to say like Kaiser Permanente, but he was like, dude, he showed me the Secretary of State of California. They control his law. So it's like, in my opinion, putting it in the hands of government, I just see, in theory, it sounds great, but I see it backfiring. But my big thing is preventative health, because we have a major pill problem here. You know, #1 pill problem in the world. Hundreds of millions of people are on pills, psychotropic pills that, you know, alter their mind. You have pills that they don't need to be taking. We have a big obesity problem and heart disease problem here that kills hundreds of thousands of people a year. So I find that no matter Trump care, Bernie care, or Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, whatever, you know, it's not gonna, it's like a factory farm of like, you get sick because you watch bad television, you watch bad media, you watch negative fear mongering people all day that like lower your vibrations. And then you eat the bad food, and, you know, and then you listen to music that's telling people to kill each other, and then you get sick, and then you go to the doctor. It's like, I feel like we're just animals in a factory farm system. So I think the first approach really has to be like a mental awakening of people. We're super stressed out. You know, we're one of the richest countries in the world, and nobody's nice to each other. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's miserable and hates their life. So it's like, you know, you go to the Philippines, and although they're poor, they have like a sense of pride in their country and their family, and they're a little nicer. And Japan, you know, that like other countries, they're way happier than we are. So like,
do you hate your life?
No, I love my life. I'm super.
I love my life too.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people.
So we're two dudes. And I know. I know. And sometimes I get stressed out too. You know, I have my moments, as I'm sure you do. All right. So when it comes to preventative care, I'm with you 100%.
And that starts in the mind too, because like stress destroys your body, and all they do, like, no, even if it was universal or Trump's healthcare, you know, they'll give you the stuff, but like there's a way to stop that, and they don't really tell people. So everybody's in this cycle of like, oh, I'm breaking out. I'm doing well. Yeah, you're not eating healthy. You're super stressed out, you know, and you're not taking care of yourself. Of course, there's going to be some things that people can't help, and I think they deserve help, and, you know, hopefully not tens of thousands of dollars in debt. But it's like, until we figure out the root causes, everyone's freaking out. It's similar to gun control with me. I'm not a big gun fan, don't get me wrong, but we have a mental like we're freaking out. We need to like chill out, take a week off, have conversations, and like come back to the drawing board, because we're destroying our health, we're destroying our minds, and we're like, oh, it's that. No, it starts, you know, from within, and there's no legislation that's really gonna help us there. And, you know, it's like, that's what's worrying me. It's like, you can't go, you know, you don't need to go to the doctor all the time if you're not sick from the air pollution and the, you know, all these things. The doctor told me if I wanted to stop getting sick, to leave LA, because there's some, you know, because of the smog. Wow. I was like, he was having a bad day, but I was like, how do I stop getting throat problems? He's like, go somewhere where there's clean air. I was like, wow, that's alarming. But, you know, it's like, that's the truth, that people are sick a lot because of, you know, certain things, whether it be diet or the air.
All right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm totally with you when it comes to preventative care. I think we just have different ideas on how to get there. And I think a universal system would start solving these problems. Hey guys, thanks for watching. That was a clip from Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means I log on to a stream and people tweet me articles over on Twitter at Ron Placone, or they use our Reddit subsection, which is just Get Your News On with Ron over on Reddit. And that's how we build the show. I'm seeing all these articles for the first time. We are literally getting our news on together. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone so you can participate. And this show streams live every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please do tune in. If you want to support this show, you can do so over on patreon.com/Ron Placone, where for as low as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts every week, exclusive videos, free tickets to shows when I'm performing in your town, and more for as low as $1 a month. Please do consider it. Thank you so much for your support. This has been Get Your News On with Ron.